All right, we are back and we're picking up from last time where we finally got the transmission out. And so now we're gonna go ahead and replace some seals, replace the clutch, replace this power steering rack, and the passenger side control arm, and there's probably a few other things I'm forgetting. But don't you forget to subscribe, like this video, and maybe comment below. So let's get to it. Okay, now it's time for the clutch. And to do this, like the service manual says, you should be using a special tool to put pressure on these springs and then take the clutch and pressure plate and all that off. But I'm not going to do that. Apparently it can ruin the clutch, but this is the old one, so I'm just going to take it off and I'm going to see how big of a deal it is. Because what I might try is just to install the clutch without using that tool. I have another option that I'm going to try, but I tried it with this clutch and it did not have enough power. So my idea was, I take the old throw bearing that sits perfectly over those springs. I take a clamp, this is a wood clamp, and I try to put pressure on it. So I tried this already, and I just couldn't get enough. I couldn't get enough pressure. I think I need a bigger clamp. So I'm putting a little bit of pressure, and I can see the springs kind of moving in, but I just can't get enough pressure on this clamp. So I'm going to try that. Oh, I need to zip these off with an impact. And that is all of them. So to relieve the pressure, wow, interesting. So lots of hot spots on there. She was definitely bad. And so the last person who did a clutch in this car, they used the same clutch that I'm using now, the Luke clutch. And I can see on here, this is an OEM Honda flywheel. So there's a very good chance that this is actually the stock flywheel, not an OEM replacement. So my thought is, they didn't replace that when they replaced the clutch. They just did it quick and easy and cheap. And so that might have been what took that clutch out a little quicker than it would have otherwise. And yeah, you can definitely see that rear main seal's leaking. Ideally, there's a better way of doing this. Having an actual tool that can hammer it in evenly. But I don't have that tool, just like there's many tools I don't have. So this technique has always worked for me. Okay, there we go. That seal is in. All right, now that we got the clutch and flywheel off and we got that new rear main seal in, what I'm gonna do is go around and clean up all the leaks on this car because there's quite a few. So I'm going to do the axle seals on the transmission, and then I'm going to clean up the inside of the transmission there because of the rear main seal leak. It was kind of dirty inside there, so I'm gonna clean that up. Okay, here's the seal. Here's my seal puller. Oops. That easy. And it's flat with that surface there, I'm happy with that.
So there's a few more leaks that I have to clean up on the subframe. So what I had is a power steering leak, and that's actually coming from my steering rack. So I got a new steering rack that I'm going to put in. I have to swap over the tie rod ends because the ones from the rack that I got are no good. Then I've also got to clean up the subframe because it's really dirty. So get all that smudge and grudge and fudge off there. Now I'm going to start on the steering rack, and you can watch me replace the rack and clean up everything on the subframe. Rack is out and leaking as you'd expect. The subframe is now ready. I've got the steering rack installed. I got the sway bar, I removed it, cleaned underneath it, cleaned everything, reinstalled the sway bar, and cleaned up the entire subframe. So it looks a lot better now. The last thing I have to do is I'm waiting for my control arm to come in on the passenger side. So I just ordered that yesterday, and that'll be in soon. And then I can replace that. Well, the control arm came in a lot quicker than I was expecting it to. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. I got my new Beck Arnley piece here. And the reason I have to replace it, I don't know if I explained that very well, is because when I took this ball joint out, the inside collar that is actually a part of the control arm, that is the piece that actually came out. So now looking here at the ball joint, which is still in the knuckle, you can see that this piece here, this shiny piece, is actually supposed to be pressed into the control arm. And that's the reason it actually came out, and I didn't have to take the nut out. So that needs to be replaced. And that's the reason I got a new control arm. Now I'm going to go ahead and install that. It'll be pretty quick, just 2 bolts, and we're done. So that's all for the subframe for now. And if we move on over to the clutch and flywheel, as you can tell, I've got the old one here and the new one there. So looking at this, you can definitely see there's some burning marks here. So that was on its way out. This is the OEM flywheel. So when the person replaced the clutch the last time it was done, they just kept using the stock flywheel from factory. So that could be part of the reason why the clutch went. And I don't know if you can see, but this clutch disc, this friction disc is completely worn out. So it was done. And again, the pressure plate, you can see the heat marks. So it was completely fried. And the new unit looks beautiful. I already got the pilot bearing installed. Well, it came like that. And the friction disc and pressure plate, everything is looking good, and it is ready to go in.
Something like that. So many bolts. Okay, you can see I've got the flywheel installed. I just torqued it. You can see my crowbar up here that I was using to I've torqued it in the crisscross pattern to 76 pound-foot. That is a spec for this car. So the next step is to clean this surface with brake clean, and then I need to install the clutch disc. So that simply goes in. And I put my alignment tool in. Should align with the pilot bearing. So that should kind of hold it there a bit on this flywheel for some reason. this mark. There, that has to be. Yeah, that seems a lot better. Okay, as you can see, my contraption is kind of installed, and it's kind of working. This plate seems to press in the spring a little easier. So now I'm just going to go around in the star pattern and slowly start tightening them. Alright, that is it. We came here to install a clutch and flywheel, and we did that. Everything is installed and torqued, and now we have to raise the transmission, raise up the subframe, and then we're pretty much done. We'll reattach everything, the exhaust and all that stuff, and so in the next episode we can see that, and we will get the car going.